Hey guitar players, what's going on? I'm Nate Savage, and this is a song I've wanted to do for a long time. This is the full fingerstyle, like solo fingerstyle arrangement of Daydream. Believe it, that's a song I've always loved. And if you want a simpler, kind of easy version of this song where you can just strum and sing along, you want to go to this video. We'll put it in the description for you. It's just going to be really easy to jump into and kind of strum along. This one, however, is quite a bit more difficult. Let's get right into it. If you need help getting into fingerstyle guitar, just building the basic blocks to play this type of stuff, go to guitarfam.com and check out the fingerstyle masterclass. The first module is free for everyone. It's a super comprehensive course, but let's get right into this one. If you want to see a full performance of this song, like without stopping, just go to the end of the video and I'm just there for you. It starts off on a G, and I tried to make this song as close to the original as I could as far as the melody and the bass and some of the piano parts at the same time too. The performance has a little bit of extras thrown in there with another guitar, but you can do this with just one guitar. So it starts off on a G, this kind of Jimi Hendrix G chord type of thing, and it just goes pinch the low E string, and then the G and B string, so, and then thumb on the D, and alternate your index and middle finger between those same two G and B strings. So again, and that's it. And as soon as you hit that D the fourth time, you switch down here to a D7 with a G in the bass, and you play that, the D, G, and B strings, and then alternate between your thumb on this G and your index finger still on the same G and B strings 4 times. So, and then alternate. So you do that a couple times. Switch to a D7. Back to a G. And then back to a D7, but this time you don't alternate because you have the melody that comes in. From that D7, you go to a regular D major, but the way you play it, I play it with my first and second fingers right here. And my third finger comes down on the 4th fret of that G string because of the melody note that we need. And I pinch the D, G, and B strings. And then the top two, just the G and B with my index finger. And that's oh, I, and then could fly. You have a hammer on from your first finger right here that's getting the 2nd fret of the G. Then you hammer on to the 4th fret. And then fly is the open G string. So that first little melody line. And then we get into verse 1, which kind of the bass line in this gets progressively more active, just so the song has kind of a natural crescendo to it. And I match the bass line almost exactly note for note to what's going on with the actual bass. So if you want to hear what's going on with that, just listen to the original recording, and that's what we're doing with the bass line. Anyway, it moves to a G chord after that, an open G. And that G, that low E string with your thumb is on the 1 of that next measure. So, and then the melody note, open B string, and then open G string, 2nd fret of the G string there. So, and with that 2nd fret of the G string there, I'm making an A minor because that's the next chord. As soon as I hit that 2nd fret, I'm coming down on the next measure with my thumb for the root note of that A minor, that open A string, and then lift up on the G string for the melody, for the open G, and then back down with the chord shape to the 2nd fret on the G. Then you have an open B string. And for all of these, the fingerings for the right hand, I have what I use written in here, but what I use isn't necessarily what you probably will want to use. So just check them out and look at them as kind of recommended fingering. So let me play the intro and this part of the verse all the way up to till this point. So. G, A minor, and right here you can think of this as like a G over B, or it's really a B minor, but I don't need all the notes in it, so I'm just playing what I would consider to be like a G over B. And that's the B in the bass with your thumb, and then the 3rd fret of the B string. Next melody note is the open B string, and then the open G string. And then you move to a C chord on the and of 4. One of the next measure is a root note of the C chord, that C with your thumb. There on the A string. So let me play the verse. I'll go from the "Oh, I could hide." Here's the C. And then the next melody note, your pinky comes down and plays the 3rd fret of the B string right before you move to a G chord on the 1 of the next measure. And then you have 2 quick 6 o'clock. So you have a lot of fret 3s right there with your pink 6 o'clock. And then the open high E string. Then the open G string for the melody. So you see we're only really getting 1 bass note per measure here. At this point, the bass line picks up soon. So all you really have to do is think about what chord you're playing, play the bass note, and then memorize the melodies. So let me play the melody up to that point for you. So, oh, I could have. There's that B over G, or B minor, C, G, E minor. Then you move to an A major and pinch the A and the D strings, the A and the G strings with your index finger and thumb. And as soon as you pinch those, you roll up G, B, high E. So the measure with A is this. And then you move to a D chord and pinch the whole thing, top 4 strings. Then let off to play the open high E string. And then it kind of comes back around to that's the first phrase of the melody, and then it kind of comes back around. That same little part that we had when the singing first began. So you have this D chord. Pinch it, but your 3rd finger is on the 4th fret. So pinch it, let up on your 3rd finger, so your 2nd fret is being fretted by the 1st finger. Hammer on, and then you have to come grab this F sharp with your thumb, and then the open G string. So that's the measure for the D chord. And then that leads us into the G, which gets us into the 2nd phrase of the 1st verse. And really, you may be thinking like, this is a lot. And it's not the easiest song in the world to play, but really the verses are the hardest thing, at least to me, because the chorus just repeats a lot. And once you learn the chorus once, you have it learned all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6, however many times it's played throughout the song. But the verses are pretty unique. So let's go into this and learn the 2nd half of the verse. Let me play verse 1 all the way up to you until this point. So from, oh, I could. And then that's where we get to our G, and this is where the bass line kind of picks up and becomes more active. It goes dum 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 dum. Give the recording a listen, and that's exactly what's going on here. So once you get to that G on the 2nd phrase, you just hit the low E string on the 1, the root note, and on the and of 2, you hit it again with your thumb, and then you have the D and B strings pinched with your thumb and middle finger, open, and then the open G string. Then another low E, and then your middle finger is going to come down on the 2nd fret of the G string in preparation to kind of get you to that A minor that's in the next measure. Hit that low A string open on the 1. On the and of 2, another A string, and then you have the G string and the low E, and then 2nd fret of the G string and the open A, and then the open B. And this gets a little bit complicated. Just learn it note by note. Trust yourself, program it in, and it will start to make sense. So once you do, it'll sound like this. And here you go to the B minor, but again, I'm doing G over B just because the only notes I'm really using out of here. So B on the 1, on the end of 1, you're gonna have the 3rd fret of the B string with my middle finger, then another B with your thumb, and then here the bass dum da dum. That's your bass line. So 2 on the A, 2 on the A again, and then you have to switch over to 2 on the low E string and the open B string, and then 2 on the A string and the open G string, and then a C. And this is where the melody and the bass kind of conflict a little bit. So this note is both the bass note and the melody note here that leads you into the next measure, which is a C. So up to this point, this phrase. And then from there, you just go da, 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 da. So just walk down C, C, B, and then open A. And then you have on the and a 4, you have an open B note on the B string there. And that leads you into the last little phrase of the verse. Let me play this little line for you to that point. And then this is the part where it says, my shaving razor's cold and his stings. So on the 1, you hit the G chord and you do the low E string, G string, and B string all together. And the open B string again right after that. So my shaving. And this part's a bit tricky. You have to go to this shape. And it's still a G, or I guess you could think about a G kind of transitioning into an E minor. So this is G, hit that. Low E, G, and B strings, index finger on the 1st string. But you have to pull off your 3rd finger and your 1st finger to the 0 to open. So, and then hit that high B string again, open. And then the 3rd fret of the low E string. And then the 2nd fret of the G string. Pull off. And hit the A string at the same time to make the 1 on the next measure for that A7. And this is probably one of the trickiest parts. This is the trickiest part of the first verse. So I'll slow that down again for you. Then you have an open A string, and then you have this D shape. It's just a C, kind of a C shape, but it's a D. And all I'm doing is playing 5 on the A string and 4 on the D string, and then 2 on the G string. And then I could reach out here with my thumb and grab that F sharp on the low E string. And then right after that, my index finger is already there on the 2nd fret of the G string, so I just play that. Pull off of that 2nd fret to the open G string, and then grab the 3rd fret of the low E string on the downbeat of the next measure to start. You'll see. Here, let me play that last little phrase starting on that G. One more time. And that leads you into this part. And this is probably one of the easier parts of the song, sadly. All it is I'm pinching with my thumb, index, and 1st fingers on the low E, G, and B strings on a G chord. And then I go to a D over F sharp. My thumb stays on the low E string. These 2 fingers drop to the D and G strings. Back to the G. Fingers back to the G and B strings, A minor, fingers stay in the same spots, thumb goes up to the A string, back to a G, back to the D over F sharp, fingers drop down to the D and G strings, and then an E minor. Thumb on the low E, index finger on the D and G string. So once you hit that G, So let me play this whole thing for you from the intro all the way up through this first verse, and then we'll get into the chorus. Here you go. So intro. Okay, so I don't know what BPM that was at. That was a little bit slower. I think what I originally settled on for this one was about 128 beats per minute. So that's what you want to be shooting for, or just playing along with the song. That's a good measure of how fast you should be playing it. Okay, the chorus is a little bit easier than the verses. It starts off on a C chord, and it's just cheer up. It's just on a C. So thumb on the low A, and then fingers on the top 2 strings. Cheer up, and then move to a D. And all that is I'm hammering on from a D sus2 to a regular D. So pinch the D string in the top 2 strings, hammer on, another D, then open high E string. And then you go to a B minor, but instead of a B minor like a normal bar chord, you have that, but you just don't bar the high E string. You let off and play that open for the melody note. So thumb and high E string, and then the G and B strings, thumb again, and then you have the little da-da. So you have the open B string, and then the 3rd fret of the B string with your, so just let off, then come back down and play the 3rd fret with your middle finger there that was already there before. And one thing that I should mention about this course is it's got a constant bass line. It's just doom, 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 doom. That's one of the things that makes it a little bit easier. It's not alternating or syncopated or anything like that. So it's a little bit easier to keep track of and build that coordination for you. After that, B minor, you go back to a C and just play twice again, 2 quarter notes. Oh, what? And then a D, normal D. So pinch the D on the D, G, and B string, and then play the D string again with my index finger. Then the D string again with my thumb. Then the open G and B strings to get us into the E minor in the next measure. So C, D, and then you go to a C, what would be like a C major 7. Or just a regular C chord, I guess you would be. But I play it like a C major 7 because I need my index finger to get this melody note. So I pinch the A, D, and G strings, and then come down on the 2nd fret of the G string with my index finger and hit another bass note with my thumb. So that first phrase of the chorus slowly for you. D, B minor, C, D, E minor, then C. Second half of the chorus goes to a G, and the first note there is just a G with your constant bass on your thumb on the low E string, so by itself. And then you have a G again, that same root note with the D and G strings open. And then you have this part. So you hit the bass note and the 1st fret of the B string and the open G string all at the same time, and then hammer on to the 3rd fret of the B string with your pinky finger. Another bass note, and then the open high E string. So that measure for the G. And then move to a C, leave your pinky where it is, because you're going to need that note for the melody, and pinch the A, G, and B strings. And then let off with your pinky, so you play the 1st fret of the B and the open G, and then another bass note, then the open G and B, another bass note on that C note, index finger back down, G and B strings, another bass note. So that measure with the C will be. And if you want to get this tab, the whole thing is on guitarfam.com for you. The link will be below. If you haven't created your complimentary account, go there, do that. There are lots of free courses for all members, and the first module, again, of each course is free. So let me play the second phrase up to that point for you, up to that C. And here comes the next measure of a G. You're going to need a 4-finger G for this, because of the root note, the melody notes on top. Play a root note by itself, low E string, and then pinch the top 2 strings and the low E string. And then you're gonna let off, play the high E string open, and the first fret of the B string. And then let off, you're gonna move to an E minor, so play the low E string by itself. And then, again, your index finger stays where it is. Play the first fret of the B and the high E string. And then the open E, open G, and open B. Pinch together. And then on the and of 4, play the second fret of the G and B strings. You're moving to an A chord right here, right before you get to it. So that second phrase of the chorus to this point will sound like this. And when you get to this A in the next measure, you're going to need to leave these 2 fingers here on top, and then you have this little walk down with as a bass line here. You just have open A, 3rd fret of the E, 2nd fret of the E, open E. But you need these 2 fingers here because of what's coming up. So open B string, then back down with these 2 fingers, and you have the open high E string in the 2nd fret of the B. But at the same time, you have an open E string with this, so. And then I move to a D chord. And then I have another little walk down. So open D, 3rd fret of the A string, 2nd fret of the A string, open A string. So I know they can get pretty complicated, so just take it a measure at a time. Here's what the second half of the chorus will sound like. I'll play that, and then I'll play the whole thing for you. And it goes from Daydream, believer, and All right, here's the full chorus for you. I'll try to play it slowly. Okay, once you have the chorus down, it's great because they're really the only differences between the first chorus and all the other ones. There's some inflections on the way he plays or the way he sings the melody, so you can choose to do those or not if you want. Let's go on to verse 2. This is where I ended up putting in an alternating bass line. So anytime you can, if you see like you're playing a G, just alternate between the root and the 5th as much as you can. And like the next one is an A minor, then a B minor. Or like I'm using a G over B again, it feels like, and then a C, and then a G, then an E minor, then it goes to an A. So get that down first, and it'll be easier to put the melody on top. Let's go and do that with the verse from the beginning. So for the first G chord there, you can alternate between the low E and D strings. So, and then your melody note on top is just 2 open Gs, and then you have another melody note that's the open D. At the same time, you're hitting that bass note on the low E string, and then melody note on the open B. And I'm kind of hinting on the end of 4, I go to an A minor, which is the melody note is on the 2nd fret of the G string, and then move right into the A minor. And then I let off of the A minor just because I need this melody note on the open G string. And then it'll come right back down for the next melody note with the A minor 2nd fret of the G. And then a melody note on the open B string. So those two measures together. Then you go to a B minor again, where I'm using this shape. I'm using this shape that looks like a G over B again. So on the 1, you just have 4 quarter notes for your bass note, and that's just alternating on the A string and the D string. And then for the melody, you have the open B string on the end of 1, and then on 2, just hammer on to the 3rd fret. Then next beat, open B string, then the open G string, and then you hint at the C chord on the and of 4 by putting the C chord on and just playing the D, G, and B strings with these 3 fingers. And keep your thumb going on the bass note throughout the entire next measure on the A and G strings. So it may sound a little bit convoluted, but just look at the tab and the notation, and you'll see the alternating bass with just the melody notes on top of it. You have to plug in, and you end up with this. Okay, so that's the first phrase of the second verse. The second phrase is this. It starts off on a G, and I would... And again, the bass notes are just 4 quarter notes on the low E and D strings. The melody notes start off like this. So first fret of the B string and the open G string. And as soon as you hit those, you hammer on to the 3rd fret of the B string with your pinky. So then do that same 3rd fret again. Bass note, 3rd fret of the B again. 3rd fret of the B again after that next bass note. And then for your next bass note, you have the high E string open, and then the G string open. So this one's a little bit tricky. Then it moves to an E minor on the downbeat of the next measure. Next melody note is just the open D string. And for this one, you're going to alternate between the low E string and A strings for those 4 beats. On the and of 3, you have to put your pinky down on the 2nd fret of the G string for the melody note. Next melody note on 4 is just an open B as soon as you hit that bass note. So this measure will be... And I put that in context for you with the measure before. So now you know how happy I can be. And then you go into an A major here. Actually, it's an A7 that we're playing. So I'll get the whole A7 on, and I pinch the open A string and the G string, and then I pinch the D and G strings, then pinch the A, G, and B strings, and then go back and pinch the D, B, and high E string. So this one's a little bit weird. It took me a while to get this one done. All you're doing is basically doing this with your thumb, and then that with your fingers. So 2, 2, then add the B string in, and then switch to the B and high E string. So not as bad as it looks at first blush. So this next measure is kind of transitional. You go to a D major chord, and you just pinch the D string, open D string, the top 2 strings with your fingers, and then you have the open D and the open B strings, and then you go back to this kind of shape we've been doing, then hammer on back to the F sharp down there, and that's kind of the same figure that we've seen before, so that should be familiar to you. So let me play verse 2 up to this point so you can get an idea of how it's supposed to flow. So it starts with, you once thought of me. And that's where it leads you into the next phrase, or the second half of the second verse, and it goes to a G. And the same thing here, bass line is just E string, D string, E string, G string. You just have to plug in the melody in on top. And that's 2 open Gs, then an open B, open G, then on the and of 4 you go to the 2nd fret of the G, and that kind of gets you into that A minor in the next measure. And the thumb notes for that are just A string, D string, A string, D string. And on 4 you have open G, then put that A minor back down to get the 2nd fret of the G string on the and of 3, and then the open B string on the and of 4. So those first 2 measures of this last phrase where the G and A minor are, that'd be measures 38 and 39. And that leads you into the B minor in the next measure. You're all set up, and I'm using that kind of G over B shape to do this. So the bass notes are just A and D. And then for the melody, you have the open B string on the end of 1, and then hammer on 2. Then on beat 3, you have an open B. Then on beat 4, you have an open G, and then on the and of 4 you have to make a quick switch to the C chord and pluck with your fingers the D, G, and B strings. And then as soon as you do that, on the 1 of the next measure, just hit that alternating bass line for the C on the A and G strings. At the end of that measure, you have an open B string for the melody. So let me play the 3rd phrase of verse 2 for you. And one more time, a little slower. And this gets into the, but how much, baby, do we really need? And it goes into a G in the next measure. And the bass line is a little bit different here because you only have 2 beats of a G and then 2 beats of an E minor. So for the G, yeah, like you normally would the low E and the D string. And then for the E minor, you have an open E minor, an open E, and then the 3rd fret of the E, and you'll see why here in a second. So the melody on top is just 2 open Bs. And then you're gonna use your index finger to play the 1st fret of the B string and pull to the open B string. And as soon as you pull, you're gonna hit the low E string to move to that E minor, and then play that open B string again. Go back to a G note there with your 3rd finger, and then your index finger grabs the 2nd fret on the and of 4. So let me play that measure of G and E minor for you real quick. Once you reach this part, on the and of 2 is where you hit that melody note. On the 2nd fret of the G, you play that, pull off to the open G string, and then hit the A string with your thumb on the downbeat of the next measure, the open A string. And this is where I had to kind of make a compromise because the melody conflicted with the bass line a little bit. So I went to just a straight melody line on the lower strings, and it worked out good. I ended up liking the way it sounded. So then hit the open G string again, and this is where kind of the single melody line starts. I just play the 2nd fret of the D string, 4th fret of the D string, pull off to the open D string, 2nd fret of the G, thumb grabs the F sharp on the 2nd fret of the low E string, and then I hit that note that I'm still fretting on the 2nd fret again, and I pull it off. And as soon as I pull it off, I'm right on the next measure to where I can go right back into that same point. So let me play that measure starting on that G, E minor. This is basically the last phrase of verse 2. So this one's a little bit tricky. And it's the exact same thing with this progression, you know, the G, D over F sharp, G, A minor, G, D over F sharp. Exact same thing as the verse 1. So let me play verse 2 for you all the way through. I'll play it as slow as I can so you can be sure to keep up with everything that's going on. Tell you what, man, you want to find out how well you know something or not, play it as slow as you can, and that will tell the story. Anyway, that's it for verse 2. Now, as far as the layout of the song goes, you have the intro, verse 1, chorus 1, verse 2, and then you have chorus 2, which is a double chorus, which is good because if you've already learned the chorus once, it's just a couple of inflections and things you can pick up on and timing things. But you already essentially know the next chorus. After that, once you play the chorus for the last time, I'll play it, and then we'll go into what the bridge will be. It's pretty easy. It's nothing. It's very similar to the intro, you'll see. So you have, right. Let's pretend like that was the second time through. So what you do is go into a G major chord, and for the bridge, let me get there, y'all. You just go a normal G major chord, 4-finger version. And I kind of adapted this to fit what's going on with the strings and the piano and everything. So just low E string, D string, D and open G strings with your thumb and index finger, and then open G and your 3rd fret of the B with your index finger. Then one quick on the end of 4, one quick bass note there on the low E string. So then you move to a D7, pinch the D, G, and B strings, then play the 2nd fret of the G string, open G string, 4th fret of the D string, then pull off to the open G string. So that first phrase, then put your G back on, pinch the bass string, the low E string, and then the open G string, D string with your thumb, D and G strings, thumb and index, and then top 2 strings with your top 2 fingers, and then the low E string again, and then you move to a D, and then you da 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 da, and all I'm doing is pinching it to fit the rhythm. Da, 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 da. So I'm gonna play that whole bridge for you. And get that triplet there at the end. And after that, you just do the chorus again. It's another double chorus, and just to round things out. That's where the song actually ends, but just to round things out, I do the intro again just to kind of wrap things up. And as soon as I get here to this D7, I just go. So just slide that shape up, same strings, just the D, G, and B strings, then back, and then end on a G. That's it. So I know this is a pretty thick one. This is a song I've always wanted to do my entire life, like fingerstyle guitar, but I've always kind of avoided it because I thought it was going to be very difficult, and it did end up being pretty difficult for me, but it helped me grow a lot as a player, and it's one thing on my bucket list. So I would encourage you, if you have a song that you want to make an arrangement for, of a song, don't be afraid to tackle it and just really dive into it. A couple of things that helped me the most were the Guitar Pro software program, because I could get it on paper, or I have it sitting here right in front of me. I could get it down exactly like I wanted it, adjust things, adjust fingerings, and then learn it and make sure I had it exactly how I wanted it without forgetting it. It was always there for me to kind of go back to. So I'd highly recommend Guitar Pro. Not affiliated with them at all as far as revenue or anything like that. I just think it's a great tool. Also, if you want to get to where you can make arrangements for yourself like this with fingerstyle guitar, but you just don't know how to get there, check out the Guitar Fam Fingerstyle Masterclass. It has everything you need to take you from building coordinations, techniques, understanding chords, and how to actually make arrangements for yourself like this for solo fingerstyle guitar. If you have any questions about anything that we've covered here, I know it's a lot, but just email us support@guitarfam.com. We'd love to help you out. Again, if you haven't created your complimentary account yet, go there, do that. You can get in on all of our complimentary courses, and the first module of all of our premium courses is also free for you to check out. And you can book a personal private one-on-one lesson with me if you want. The first one of those is complimentary as well. Enough about all that stuff. Here is the performance of this song. Let me know what you think, and let me know what songs that you would like to arrange for fingerstyle guitar. See you guys later.